This is an ArseBrothers production. Follow us on Twitter at the ArseBrothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud at ArseBros. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button.
Good morning. Welcome to another fucking 7 a.m. The baby's been crying since 6. I worked last night. I got shit in my eyes. But Darren, fuck me. We won again. And we won going into an international break, which means we somehow, Darren, we take momentum into an international break. Darren, I wrote in a comment of this. If we continue to win like this, and if we continue to go on like this, will the collective erection actually kill us through club blood loss?
Ask me an easier one than that. Sometimes I just love you. Sometimes you are a wordsmith.
It's just the way my brain works, mate. I feel like all the collective blood in all of the Arsenal fans' bodies, all our collective blood, has just gone to our collective Arsenal penises at the moment. And we're basically sitting on this huge, erection of possibility.
Now, what do you want me to say to that? I've just come home. I've just had the best day ever. And there's loads of people joining us already. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Because I can't hear myself. Something's wrong.
I can hear you. You're fine, Darren, and you're loud and clear.
Okay. I was just looking at all the people who are joining us already. Isn't that good? Look at them. They're all over the world. China and somewhere else and things. Shit, I'm struggling. I can't hear myself. This is a bit weird. Talk for a minute while I just sort my sound out.
I said to a friend of mine on the weekend prior to the game, he said, "Oh, how are you feeling about the Watford game?" And I said, I actually feel like it's a bit of a banana skin game for us, because I think whenever teams start to do something new or start to play in a different way, the way that data is collected, the way the modern game is used, how much we know about teams, we can look at their key data points, look at how they're playing, what areas they're pushing into. You always feel that you're only ever 3 games away or 4 games away from having to do something different again, because you get worked out as a team. I go back to, if you remember when Wenger first went to a 3 at the back and it pulled us out of a slump. It's like changing a manager or changing a formation or changing a striker. So I did really think that this game was going to be a banana skin game for us. I think I'd said to you on the previous podcast, well, surely now managers must be looking at Arsenal and saying, well, let's just get through that first 20-minute blitz and then see what they've got for the bit that comes after it. And Watford kicked the living shit out of us. I think it was 12 fouls in a half, which was the most we've been fouled in a game. They sat in. They didn't necessarily come to play. And this was the exact type of game previously that I had said Arsenal massively struggle in and massively struggle to create chances in, as teams who sit in low blocks and try and hit us on the break. But we went out, we played a very, very different type of game, and we still created 4 chances. And like I said, the overall feeling to be able to go into an international break, having banked another 3 points, having banked, I think it's something like 24 out of the last 26 points now, and sitting where we're sitting. The enthusiasm for Arsenal, Darren, has never been higher.
Can I say that I've actually looked at a table now? I've actually broken the curse. We're going to get smashed by Liverpool in our next game because I broke the curse. Too many people have told me, we're 5th in the table. I needed to have a look. I actually needed to have a look, and we are. Things that shocked me were where West Ham United were. Fuck, they're good, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to talk about West Ham later on, but not only are West Ham good, Darren, but I'd look at who West Ham beat this year, and they have not beaten the run of
United,
Liverpool. They must have looked at that fucking. They must have looked at that fixture list when it came out, West Ham fans, and thought, we're going to be bottom of the league. They've done West Ham, they've done Man U, they've done Tottenham, they've done Everton away, they've done Man City in the Cup, they've done Liverpool, they've done Wolves. All of these teams finished in the top 6 last season. Ridiculous, and they keep on trundling on. Actually, I played football on Wednesday night. We played against a team of Calvert-Lewins. They all had Calvert-Lewin on their back. Anyway, we fucking smashed these cunts. 9-4. Really good performance. Anyway.
What did you have? Tell me you had Walcott on your back.
No. We play in a neutral yellow jersey.
That's Walcott, the coward.
Anyway, the dude I was talking to after the game, fuck you. The dude I was talking to after the game said to me the hardest team that they had faced this year, the team that he looked at, and he was like, geez, you're well organised, was West Ham.
Yeah.
So, big game.
Just to check, we've lost Mike Scunny today. He's unable to make it, but he's already in the comments. How can you be in the comments? You must be able to get onto a link from there, couldn't he? What's going on?
Who knows what he's doing, mate?
It's a bit weird. This is a bit weird for me. I can't hear myself, but can everyone out there hear me? Come on, somebody in the comments, let me know you can hear my shit, because my sound is weird. I can't hear myself, which is kind of weird. Anyway.
Positivity, Darren.
Toby said he can come on. Hang on. Toby said he could come on. That's your brother, Toby, isn't it? He can come. That'd be great, Toby. We would love you to join.
All right. Let me send that fuckhead the link.
Sorry if this is a bit unprofessional, everyone. I've just had the most amazing day. It's my last day here in Spain before I make my way back to the UK. And I've just bought a house. Which is why I was out celebrating tonight. Yes.
You bought a house in Spain?
I've just bought a house.
Yeah. Mate, well, fuck living anywhere in the fucking world where there's cities. Everything is shit. Every
I've just
city
bought
is
a house
fucked.
half an hour into the middle of fucking nowhere. It's going to be good. So are you setting up? I'm
sending Toby a link, Darren. So if you could talk about football for 1 minute, just prattle on about Arsenal, that would be wonderful.
Well, let me go back to, I've looked at the table, and it's interesting because, I'm always the positive one. I've said we can finish in the top 4. I didn't realise how close we were. You got to remember, we lost our first 3 games, and suddenly I've got a nephew, Max, who I talk about quite often, who's been using my season ticket while I'm away. And Max is like my kid, if you like. He's 23 years old. And 3 weeks into the start of the season, he said to me, right, we've got to fucking sack Arteta. Arteta's got to fucking go. And I was saying, well, let's give him till Christmas at least. This is his side. Let's see where we go. No, we've got to fucking get rid of him. And I asked him, he just used my season ticket for the last 3 games. And I just asked him, he thanked me. He sent me a message saying, thanks. It's been fantastic. The atmosphere is fantastic at the Emirates. Really pleased. Thanks for letting me use your ticket. And I said, do you still want Arteta sacked? And he went, well, no, it's all right. It's a bit better, but the jury's out. Is it still out for you? I sort of feel he's earned the season at least. Yeah?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not in the slightest is the jury out for me, Darren. I think Scunny and I spoke about this at the start of the season. The worst thing about Arsenal fans, and again, I make comments on Arsenal fans because I'm not another football fan and I don't spend time with other football fans at football or watching football. So I don't know what Man U fans are like with Man U fans or City fans like with City fans. But from what I see with Arsenal fans, the worst thing with Arsenal fans is this, where they feel the need to nail their colours to the mast. So if they start off not liking someone, they've got to not like them forever. And if they start off saying that they don't believe in this manager, they've got to not believe in the manager forever. Well, like the business world, mate, you're only as good as your last P&L. You're only as good as your last quarter. and you can fail for 3 fucking quarters and have your neck on the chopping block. And if you turn it around in that last quarter and deliver, high-level financial growth, then guess what? You're retaining your job for the next quarter. And I think that's the state of modern management. This is why the average contract, even at big clubs, the average time spent at a club is less than 3 years. You have to come in, you have to get results. I think that we were frustrated by the fact that, not even that we weren't necessarily getting the results, but we're frustrated by the fact that we couldn't see a style of football. We couldn't see something developing that we could grab onto and say, this is Arsenal. He then addressed that this season. I think he started addressing it last season, but he then addressed that this season with the help, obviously, of Edu and the help of the purchases. And I wanted to run through the purchases and how successful those purchases have been this season with you as well. We'll do that in a bit. So to say that the jury is still out on Arteta, I think is to just spit into the wind and spit in your own face a bit, Darren. Because any Arsenal fan right now who can't say that Arsenal team are up for the fight every week, which is the first prerequisite of any Arsenal fan, is I need to see my team up for the fight. Anyone who can't see that right now, I think you're just blinded by anger or blinded by the fact you wanted to get rid of Arteta and now you have to come to terms with the fact you can't get rid of him. So he hasn't lost the dressing room and he hasn't lost the team. Anyone who would then say, I can't see a style of football, well, I can still see a style of football developing every single week. And finally, anyone who's not turning on the TV at the moment, Darren, or going to the game, actually energized and actually happy and willing to go and watch Arsenal run out and not in love with their players at the moment, in love with the fight of the players. Well, I would say if you're not seeing that, then you're blind and you're insane as well. So everything that I need to see from a football team right now, Darren, I'm seeing from a football team. And the most beautiful thing about it is I'm seeing it from a football team that's littered with academy players and young players and development players who are going to be at the team for the next, provided we can keep them, for the next 5 to 7 years. So is the jury out on Arteta? No. And anyone who says it is, I think you're a fucking idiot.
Are you calling me an idiot?
Yeah, I am calling you a fucking idiot.
See, I think we took a huge gamble with Arteta, and winning the FA Cup in his first few months was obviously gave him some money in the bank to give him a chance to carry on. And then we had a horrible season. It was a strange season with COVID, and he's blind faith in players like Willian and Xhaka and things. And some of these things have been forced. His hand's been forced a little by what's happened to him. But I also think he's learning along the way. Did you see his interview with Amy Lawrence last week? Have you managed to watch that?
I did not.
I implore everyone who's a fan of the club. It was a half an hour interview because he had his 100th game in charge of the club. So Amy Lawrence, who's a fabulous journalist, got the chance to interview him. And it's a lovely half an hour interview where you see into the man. And for me, you got this impression that there is a man that actually really appreciates that he got one of the biggest jobs in football. He understands that. He really gets that he talks about when he went for the job the first time and didn't get the job when they employed Unai Emery. And he sort of understands that it was maybe a bit too soon, but suddenly he's been thrust into the management of a club like Arsenal Football Club. And he's so proud, and there's something really lovely about the interview that you can really see. And I'm aiming this at people who listen to us every week, like Why Not, who isn't here at the moment, who opens every podcast with a message to me saying, Arteta out, Kroenke out. And when I'm human, and I see in Arteta somebody who cares, who gets the club, and I'm so pleased that at the moment things are going really well for him. I'm just so pleased that he's getting some rewards for the effort that he's put in, and he talks really about the unity in the club, about everybody, the players who are playing, and more importantly, the players who aren't playing have all bought in to what he's trying to do. And I really got the impression
that was most visible, Darren, in the cup competition for me. And we spoke about this. When you have basically 8 of the 11 guys who played in that cup competition are either looking for a way out of the club, coming to the end of a contract, have been out on a loan in the last season, are coming to the end of their time at Arsenal, or massively struggling to break into the Arsenal first team, having been basically starting players last season. To have all of those players come together and produce what was a really hard-fought cup competition win is usually a great indicator of the overall drive of the club, as in everyone pushing towards the same outcome. Someone said to me the other day, "Oh, we're playing so well. I really hope that we get knocked out of all the cup competitions and we can just concentrate on the Premier League." I said to him, "Mate, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life, because, winning breeds winning. We need to go deep into these cup competitions. We need to make sure all of these players are playing." And I agree with you completely, in the sense that I do think that the job was too big for him. I agree with you that I think it was too big for him. I absolutely think that we needed Unai Emery to come in as a buffer manager. Someone almost always has to own the first part of failure. When you go through a large transitional period, like, whoever comes in next is always going to fuck it up. So you would rather put that on someone with a bit more experience and put that on someone else. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about, and the big person who seems to have been the guy who came in for so much stick last season outside of Arteta, who I think's performance has been incredible this transfer, absolutely incredible, but no one wants to give credit to at the moment, is Edu. When we look at the signings that he's made, oh, Jesus is in the room.
Hey! For those of you who are listening on the podcast, Toby's just joined us. Toby, how lovely to see you again. The good-looking brother.
Oh, thank you, mate. Definitely my favourite after that comment.
Don't look good. You don't look good to me, mate. You look like fucking 3 shades of shit. Your face is puffed up. You sound like Fran Drescher. Like, you need to blow the cum out your fucking nose.
If Toby was to tell me he was actually Jesus reincarnated, I would start to follow him. That's how good he looks.
Okay. Well, Toby, as you are in the room, and now you've upset all the flow of the room with your impromptu gate crashing of your first podcast of the season, and I was halfway through rambling through a point. We've been talking about Arteta, obviously, and how he has now 100% earned his right to be Arsenal manager. But Toby, the Arsenal fans, they haven't really given as much praise to Edu based on the signings that he's brought in this season and the quality of those signings, or the quality over essentially the signings over the last 2 years. Remove Willian and, to an extent, maybe remove Pepe a bit, but particularly this season, Ben White, massive performer. Tomiyasu, massive performer. Nun Tavares, massive performer. How do you sort of rate how these guys have come in and integrated into the team, and how important these players have been in their specific positions in us actually moving forward?
Well, I haven't missed the 5-part question that I have to try and answer, but I'll try and work.
He's still doing it, a question within a question within a sentence within.
I'll try and work my way through it. I think the point started off with Edu. And I think that he does need some credit, because we're not sure how much of the youth policy was actually Arteta. So, did Arteta previously back the older players and the system that he was playing in, especially after he came in and took over from Ljungberg? And I feel like he did prefer those players with greater experience. And then with signings such as Willian and preferences for players like that, not integrating Martinelli as much as we'd seen previously before he came in. So, yeah, I think in a roundabout point, I think the Edu signings, obviously made in conjunction with Arteta, he would have a say, does need an element of credit, because I certainly don't think it was the bloody Cronkies that set that policy in place.
No, I don't think it was the Cronkies set the policy in place, but I also think that Arsenal fans need to get off the back of the fucking Cronkies a little bit, because the investment over the last 2 years, whether or not that money has been spent well, probably the year prior, you could argue that the money wasn't spent well.
That was the point I was going to say. As to say, we normally get people straight away going Arteta out, Cronkies out. Do you know what? My philosophy has always been that I want the owners of the club to be Arsenal fans. And that's a simple, childish, almost basic instinct, that you want the people who run the club that we love to at least love the club as much as we do. That's sort of like the number one thing. But when you look around the Premier League now, there's Arabs taking over countries, there's countries taking over clubs. West Ham have just had a 27% investment in their club from Belarus or somewhere. You know, like, wanting the owner of Arsenal to be an Arsenal fan is a prerequisite for me. But we've moved into a different world where that doesn't happen. But those who just criticise the Cronkies for Cronkies' sake, we are a self-supporting model that went that way as long as we could. And then suddenly we've had what's happened in the last few years, where we're a mid-table team suddenly from being a top team for a long time. And they've reacted. They have reacted. They've invested a lot of money, because we're not generating that money in a COVID-related era. There's no money coming into football clubs. We lost all our stadium revenue. And we're on the same money coming in as the Burnleys and Crystal Palaces and Brightons of this world. And yet we haven't got an oligarch behind us who's been willing to invest, and yet they did. They have put a good 200 million into this club to give us the opportunity to plan for the future. And I would say, look, I want the club to be run by Arsenal fans, but at least they have just not washed their hands of this club, and they've done something to support us. And now we're seeing the fruits of it.
I think you're also seeing that economically, the game is changing to a point where the baseline of players' costs is going up considerably. We're seeing more players run down their contracts. We're seeing higher revenues through television rights, which is forcing higher wages on contracts, which is meaning that the Spanish teams and the German teams, the Apex teams in the other league, are now struggling to bail the big clubs out of these massive, massive contracts, which means if you bring someone in and you put them on £350,000 a week, they're basically going to complete their contract with you. There's no Real aren't coming in and saying, oh, we'll take him off your hands for 100 million and we'll take his wages for you as well. So the way that you now are forced maybe to construct a club is around one or two very, very, very high profile signings, and then actually taking what is essentially more of an Arsene Wenger, David Dean model, and trying to get very, very, very good younger players and putting them on lengthier contracts and then backing them. So you kind of end up with this bell curve of clubs. I was talking to my mate Fergus about Liverpool, and he was saying outside of Virgil van Dijk, he doesn't think that Liverpool have made an absolutely apex world-class signing in this period where they become a top team. Salah came out of Roma after failing at Chelsea. You know, Sane came out of Southampton. Firmino came out of mid-table Bundesliga. Milner was running down, Gigi Van Alden was a player from another club. Jordan Henderson had come in, but basically what they did is they put together all of these Trent Alexander-Arnolds and brought in these different guys and bolstered the team with Premier League players and basically produced a team that all came together at the top of their bell curve at the same time. And I'm looking at Arsenal and I'm thinking, I don't think that team's ready to go now. And I think it would be foolish to say, I think that team's ready to go now. I mean, Premier League title ready to go now. I don't believe it. But you can see us starting to move up the side of this bell curve, and as a couple of these contracts drop off and your Aubameyang contracts drop off and your Lacazette contracts drop off, and you end up with all of that wage able to be reinvested somewhere else. You start looking at Arsenal and you start thinking, we may only be one good 60 or 70 million pound signing away from becoming Apex as all of these guys kind of come up together.
Toby.
Anyone.
Toby, yeah, I was just saying, Toby, stop it for fuck's sake. Will you talk about something?
Yeah, I mean, we went from Liverpool and their model. I sort of see I kind of see where he was going with it.
No. He's the last few weeks. You've got to say these 7 o'clock in the morning podcasts. He actually speaks quite well. He's not the drunken, stupid man that we're used to of an evening. He suddenly, Max is talking some sense, but he doesn't stop him talking.
No.
Well, when no one is fucking conversing with me and I'm just left to talk fucking by myself to fill in the time. Feel free to jump in with intelligent fucking retort at any time.
Darren's just a professional. He doesn't speak over you. So yeah,
I was going to say you're right, but I didn't want to talk over you.
A signing or two away from being Apex to get back to the point. I don't know about Apex in the modern context, because Apex in the modern context is probably your PSGs and your Manchester Cities and so forth. But being relevant and being competitive up in that sort of top 4 table, we're probably not far away with the structure of the team and the performance of the team from, let's say one of those 60 or 70 million pound players to sprinkle that bit of class or performance on top of it. You would need, I would say, a bloody hard-working all-round number 9 to really bring that team together. Someone that can create, bully, muscle, link with the midfield and the wide forwards and score goals from something that they would create themselves. So a much more complete all-round centre forward would do that for me. In saying that, let's just have the little thought process towards we're only playing once a week. And I think that's a really, really big benefit.
Yeah, I can't help but worry. I mean, I was criticising Arsenal 3 weeks ago, where we've been battered by most of the teams we've played this year. Burnley, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Manchester City, Chelsea, Brentford. They'd all outplayed us, and then suddenly we've got a couple of victories. We beat Tottenham really well, and we've gone on a run. And within that run, we've got slightly better and better and better. But we just scraped a 1-0 win against Watford, who are probably going down this year. So things aren't perfect. The fixtures have been kind and it's all sort of worked. But isn't there just a huge well of relief that we're seeing things get better? Do you remember all that time under Unai Emery, we had that 22-game unbeaten run and everyone saying, oh, Arsenal are back. I watched those games. We were terrible. We were terrible.
You always felt like we were going to concede with Unai, and over that 21 games, we didn't. We conceded more shots than any other team in the Premier League over that period of time. I think the most interesting thing about watching Arsenal at the moment is that even when we're on the back foot and even when we're under pressure, you feel quite safe. And we spoke about this over the last couple of weeks, Darren, where I said to you, I'd said a few weeks ago to you, does this remind you of a very, very old-fashioned Arsenal team? The Four Horsemen, your Keowns and your Adams and your Dixons and your Winterburns and your Seamans. And you said, no, there's no comparison at all. And then, a week or 2 weeks later, there is some comparison. I would argue, Toby, if we're looking at, saying, oh, well, the cities and the PSGs and all of these teams are much more apex than us. I would argue at the moment, not from front to back, but from back to front, on form, I would not take a different back four in the Premier League at the moment. You would struggle. You would definitely struggle. I wouldn't take another centre back at the moment. Give me a centre back pairing who's playing better. Tomiyasu is playing out of his skin. Nuntavage is playing out of his skin, £6 million on Nun Tavares playing out of his skin, who's going to keep fucking Kieran Tierney, our player of the season, on the bench.
Is that the correct way to say it?
That's the correct way to say his name, Nun Tavares.
Nuno. Can we call him Nuno Tavares the same as everybody else?
Well, his name's Nun Tavares, champion. I can call you Darren, but it won't be right. We all know how to pronounce your name, Darren.
But if everyone calls me Darren, I'll accept it. That's fine.
Okay, okay.
It's Nuno Tavares. Come on. You were the one who called Tomiyasu. What did you call him for the first month?
Tom Kotsu.
A form of ramen.
Yeah, I did call him a form of ramen.
So, I mean, Max obviously favours Portuguese over Japanese. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, look, back four wise, that's an interesting point. I think the sample size is a bit small to say, outperforming the rest of the Premier League or not wanting anyone else. But you're seeing something. You're seeing something there. I think
statistically, Toby, they're the best back four in the competition right now.
Okay, all right, I'll accept that.
So the optics of it, as in how it looks, is a tick. Then statistically, it's being backed up that they are operating as the best back four, back five in the Premiership right now.
Yeah, it's funny because I believe there's been a trade-off from an attacking sense, and having Tomiyasu there, who to me is a cardboard cutout of Chambers, is just that Chambers fucked up and he didn't take his opportunity. It was quite clear that Arteta quite likes to attack down the left and then use, a hybrid centre half, right fullback to shore things up, and sort of move across into a back three, when in possession. So I think, Tomiyasu coming in and shoring up that side of the defence, strong with headers, great getting a foot in on last-ditch tackles, very sort of aware positionally. I think we've done a really good job in that. However, you do trade off from time to time with an attacking sense. So occasionally Tomiyasu can get up, into the final third of the pitch or even towards the byline, and just doesn't quite have that end product. The cross that's not hit perfectly, that gets cut out by the keeper. That final ball, that ability to beat the man. So I always think in football, you've always got a trade off between, your attacking and your defensive minded.
And if you don't have a trade off, Toby, you know what you've got? £100 million fucking pound player who's the most sought after player in the world.
No, of course. And I get that. So I was just starting with a more cautious approach before the love in. And then I'll head off towards the, a different side of things.
I've got to say, I need to just interject on Tomiyasu. I've been watching Arsenal forever, and he is the best right back I have seen there. I was going to say potential there. I hesitated to say potential. He is a player that is ready-made for this league. I don't know whether it's because he's Japanese, but his mentality is right. And I'm not saying he is the perfect best footballer I've ever seen, but he knows exactly what to do. He understands instructions. I don't know if it's just a Japanese profile, his personality. He's tall, he's strong. He wins headers, something we haven't had for a while. He can attack. He can ping a ball 50 yards. I think we have found, and look, he hasn't had every game, hasn't been fantastic, but I really do believe that he is the key to one of the major differences in our success to now to 10 games ago. He is exceptional. He gives effort. He understands his role. He knows his positioning. He knows when to go forward. He knows when to give it simple. He, to me, is our perfect footballer. Give me 10 more of him.
He's been hugely, hugely relevant in our uptick. And Toby, if you go back through old podcasts last season, old podcasts of you and me, old podcasts of me and Darren, we many times made the point that Hector Bellerin was a very, very big problem for Arsenal.
Hector Bellerin, can I add on that? Hector Bellerin was my favourite player for the last 10 years because I didn't have much buying into much of our squad. And I watched him make his debut. He looked like he was going to be the best right back we have ever seen. And I mean that, like Dixon included. He was going to be the one that was going to do it. He had everything. He had technical qualities, pace. I don't know who ruined him. I don't know whether it was a combination of his vegetarianism, his veganism, Arsene Wenger, his fashion interests, his lack of commitment to football.
His ACL injury.
His ACL injury. Yeah, but before that, something went wrong with Hector Bellerin. Something in his DNA. He didn't want to become the best. He lost his mojo. He lost his drive to be the best. And
but didn't that happen throughout the entire club?
But he was the one that was the potential. He was the one that was our one superstar for me. He was going to be
I agree.
The best right back in the world.
I agree.
Over a course of 3 or 4 years, he didn't. Now,
and you're also right that his form dipped before the ACL. So something happened, and whether it was that appetite that you need to be the best because he had other interests in the world. You almost need to be a bit simple-minded and obsessive to get to that level. But he was linked with everyone.
I mean, was Jesus Christ I'm talking about, was Jesus the best carpenter in the world? No, he lost interest. He went on to save the world and become the leader of the Jews or whatever. He was never the best carpenter, but when he started out, I bet they thought, what a fucking good carpenter he is. He had everything. Right. They thought he was going to be a fucking great carpenter, and then he lost his way and he went on to be something else. That's how I see Hector Bellerin. I just think in life, we might look back, if we live long enough, that in 20 years' time, we will look back on Hector Bellerin when he's running eco issues and probably running for government and parliament and changing things in our world, or maybe just wearing a dress and looking pretty and being very rich. But he lost that mojo to be a great footballer. And who knows what that reason is, but he did. And something in Tomiyasu, I see the I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Japan. I mean, I don't know much about Japan. It's one of the few countries I haven't visited where I think he has been brought up to be an athlete, to be professional, to be everything that he's perfect. He ticks every box.
Well, I think culturally there, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Darren, culturally they are perfection to the, and one of the cultures that have maintained a lot of tradition. I mean, I don't know what's happened there in the last sort of 10 or 15 years when the world's gone uber woke and progressive and all of that bullshit. But traditionally, Japan was they were very traditional. It's a very profound comment from me. But, follow direction and instruction to a T, because that is that culture, So he has come in and performed at this level. And then under a direction, which is very specific, because it certainly isn't a free-flowing, individualistic, autonomous position, the way he's playing. So I think it's wonderful. I did want to draw one comparison with Tomiyasu, and just to bounce off of you two. I sort of feel like he's a bit of an Ivanovic from the Mourinho era, who was hugely successful.
Third centre-back, allows people to move forward in front of him.
Cashley Cole on the other side, who was far more attacking and build-up orientated.
Over 6 foot. Sorry, I'm choking on the morning. Over 6 foot tall. I mean, I remember I put a tweet up after Tomiyasu's first game, and I said, who would have thought a right back who plays at right back and whose heat map comes up as a right back, and who, when is required to be a right back, is at right back, would achieve for us so highly as a right back. It's almost like, and to go back to Darren's point a little bit, and to answer that, Hector Bellerin's form coming down before, I also feel like Hector Bellerin and a lot of the players who were left over from the Arsene Wenger era had been shaped so much, molded so heavily in the form of Arsene Wenger, that as football changed and as Arsene Wenger became ineffective as a manager, or less effective as a manager, that they became less effective as players because they were all in the mold of Arsene Wenger. And now what you're seeing is, to go back to a comment, who was it? Digi put it up. He talks about the athletic profile of the back five. And I think this is such a solvent point because for so long, salient, such a salient point. For so long, we've lacked the athletic profile. You know, and you talk about Ivanovic, Toby, and you talk about that Mourinho era. Well, what did Mourinho come in and do that smashed the shit out of the Premier League? He went and got the biggest bastards he could. Big bastards who rang hard. Ivanovic's, Essien's, Drogba's, you know, all of these guys who were just massive fucking bodies. And for so long,
at the same time that Wenger was going for the tiki-taki Barcelona style. With
and how many times did we get run through, you know, possession high up the field, and then we just get broken and destroyed? You know, someone like Arteta would get a red card because he'd have to chop someone down because he was too slow. And the last man of...
I think it feels like that athletic profile is across the entire team now. Ramsdale, athletically, if you look at his save against Leicester, his 2 saves against Leicester, because his first save that he tips around the corner is actually better than the camera save from the free kick, by the way. But you look at that athletic profile in Gabriel, the athletic profile of Ben White, why we're starting to see and enjoy Nun Tavares on the left, or even a fully fit KT running up and down there. You're starting to see this athletic profile across the entire team. And weirdly, probably one of the last guys remaining who was a Wenger signing is the guy who looks to be the odd man out at the moment athletically. And I wanted to get to this. It's Aubameyang. We've spoken about him a little bit, Toby. You haven't been on the podcast. Darren and I have made our opinions. We're up and down with Aubameyang, as you are, because he floats in and out of games. Toby, he looks a yard too slow off the mark at the moment. He looks like he's got a load of kids and a load of energy around him, and that they're putting the ball into areas that he seems to maybe not be able to quite get to. We understand that we need to replace this guy, and we understand that we need to replace him with a bigger, more athletic, more hold-up profile, probably a combination of Aubameyang and Lacazette. But how do you feel about him at the moment? Because there's still a lot of the fan base who are backing him in really heavily.
Yeah, look, I'm not ready to give up on him just yet. I think we've got enough work rate around the team to make up for him as long as he finds his scoring boots again. So even with the shocker that he had in the last game, he still could have scored 3 goals and made an assist. So, you know, it's as long as he keeps his head up, you know, although I would like a more complete all-round striker, someone like a Danny Ings or something like that, I thought would have been amazing for us if he could stay fit. However, I am aware that, you know, he's 32 and he's on the downward slope, if not a spiral. But yeah, look, I'm just not ready to write him off just yet. I was reading a really interesting article the other day about how his increase in work rate and pressing and tackles and headers per game, he's actually in the top. Like, if he's not number one, he's in the top couple of strikers at the moment.
Yeah, I read the same article, Toby. It's not so much that he's outperforming the rest of our team, but he's actually, the stats he's producing now for chasing, for pressing, for all those things are higher than he has done himself.
Exactly. So he's outperforming himself. Yeah. So what he's actually done, he's reinvented himself. So if he can find elements of those scoring boots, although, you know, his scoring prowess, which I feel with his personality he can do, because he smiles and laughs and shakes it off. I think that's a really positive trait to have instead of getting down in the dumps. So, you know, 2-part answer, maybe 3-part answer. I would rather a more complete striker. However, I think he's doing a great job. And, you know, if he finds that scoring boot again, then he can then he can still be something for us.
But
Can I just make one more point?
Of course you can. Carry on, Tony,
Sorry, mate. Sorry. Now, take his wage aside, or don't even take his wage aside, because to sign a new player is £100 million for someone who's not that good anymore. I wonder if he could become something of a Pippo Inzaghi for AC Milan. He doesn't play every game anymore, but he's a finisher. He knows how to get in the right positions, and he adapts himself over time.
Not on 300k.
No.
With 2 years,
take away
can't take away the money.
You can take away.
You can, because if you've got to,
money's nothing to do with football.
No, because if you have to sign a new player, is what I'm saying. So say he was willing to take on a contract for slightly less and be part of the club and remain till he's 35, 36. He could score a very important 10, 12, 15 goals, and then you may have Champions League as well. So it's just a point that, I'm not saying this is what will happen, but I'm saying, I would be moving on Lacazette and trying to replace him.
I am the complete opposite. I could not be more opposite. I would be giving Lacazette, who I actually see as, if not performance-based, spiritually, he's had a huge impact coming back into the team, right? Running around and geeing everyone up and doing his Lacazette.
Yeah, for 2 games or 3 games, and then Lacazette becomes Lacazette again and becomes ineffectual.
Whatever. You can only look at the paints, Toby, that are on the canvas in front of you. Or you can only paint with the colours that you're given. There's a saying
that aligns with my point of keeping Oba instead of trying to sign someone else who's going to cost
Toby,
I'm
not trying to paint. I'm not trying to paint with your pinks and purples, right? I'm over here trying to paint
with your charcoals and greys,
right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is,
go on forever,
staring into the abyss.
You're both actually right, and you're both completely wrong. In that, what we have to understand as Arsenal fans at the moment, you can eulogise about what could have been or what couldn't have been. We have got two players, both centre forwards, both got incredibly good scoring records for Arsenal. Aubameyang's is excellent, and Lacazette's is consistent. Both add different elements to the game. We can't change everybody at once. We have got. You think about West Ham United at the moment, flying high at the top of the table, and I hope we get on to talk about West Ham. Would they swap Antonio for Aubameyang? Probably. Or would they add him to their squad? Absolutely. Would West Ham United want Lacazette to get into their squad? Absolutely. We have got incredibly good depth with 2 very, very good strikers, and they may not fit the way we play at the moment, but let's just call a spade a spade. We have 2 excellent strikers at our club, and they may not fit into the model that we want, but they are the strikers that we got, and they're not that fucking shabby. Aubameyang, he's not my favourite, hasn't been for years. Hated him playing on the left, thought it was a waste of position. Add somebody behind him with Lacazette, now playing with 2 up front, and suddenly he's involved in the game. Let's give him credit. He's working hard. I will support him for doing that. If he was just walking around up and down the pitch like Alexis Sanchez, who I couldn't wait to get out of the club. Everyone loved him, superstar. Did fuck all for the team. Ran around like a knobhead when he thought the cameras were on him. Couldn't give a shit anything else. He would score a goal when he thought it was something important for him. Wouldn't give anything to the team. Aubameyang is working for the team. Lacazette is working for the team. Let's support him now and look at the situation in 12 months' time.
Well said. Alexis is a cunt.
Alexis was a cunt, and Toby and I have called him a cunt many times. Manny, on the other hand, wants to fucking suck his dick. Manny called him an Arsenal legend. Fuck you, Manny. If you're listening, I miss you. Big, beautiful chocolate man getting angry at everything. Come back, buddy. Come back. It would not be an ArseBros podcast, Toby, if we didn't talk about my other chocolate love child.
We're going to have fucking Maitland-Niles love in now.
Ainsley fucking Maitland-Niles, Toby. Now, Darren doesn't think Maitland-Niles is very good, right? Darren doesn't like him. But you got to remember, Toby, Darren
Can I just say,
I love
Darren
all doesn't like Sol Campbell. Except
Darren
Sol
is-
Campbell.
Hang
piece
on,
of-
Sol Campbell's a cunt.
Yeah, okay. We're not going into that one again.
I've always liked Darren up until this point. Now I
No,
think
no,
he's a
don't
piece of
get
shit.
don't
Come on,
get him
let's talk
started.
about Sol Campbell.
Shouldn't have
How can
started
you
it.
look? Let me just paint a picture of Sol Campbell. Sorry if you haven't listened to me before on Sol Campbell. Sol Campbell left Tottenham Hotspur, where he was club captain and went through his entire career there and could have played for anyone in the world. He ran down his contract and then joined his club that he's played for as a boy. He went and joined their biggest rivals, where he could have gone for anyone in the world. He could have played for Barcelona, he could have played for Real Madrid, he could have played for Bayern Munich, and he chose to go to the club across 4 miles up the road and win trophies for them. I cannot believe as a man that you would want to be in the same dressing room as that Judas. We're on a real religious streak tonight, aren't we? You could not be in the same dressing room as that man, because he doesn't have loyalty, he doesn't have respect. He should have fucked up as far away in the world as he could from Tottenham, and he went and played for us. And I love the fact that he played for us. I love the fact we won things. I love the fact that he shoved it up that lot up the road. But as a man, when he says, I can't get a job because I'm black, no, you can't get a job because you're not a very nice man, and nobody likes you, nobody respects you, nobody wants to play for you. Sol Campbell, great player, terrible human being.
Also, one of the lowest win rates as a manager in Premier League history, but played the race card, not the "you're not a very good manager" card. Apparently, is Darren.
He's never managed in the Premier League.
Moving on. Toby, Ainsley
I think
Maitland-Niles.
Sorry. Let's
it
not
does-
get facts get in the way of a good story. But he never managed in the Premier League. He managed at Southend, rubbish, got sacked. He managed at lower league clubs and just used the race card. It wasn't because he's black. He's not very good.
I read
Brilliant.
an article about him doing it the tougher way instead of just being given a Premier League opportunity like the rest of the dickheads. So there's another perspective to that.
Can we talk about Ainsley Maitland-Niles?
Yes.
Please, can we talk about Ainsley Maitland-Niles?
Okay, sure.
Literally,
No,
we've
so
yelled
it hurt my heart.
We've yelled
Okay.
at Sol Campbell on like 10 different podcasts.
Sure. I just like to finish off. That hurt my heart, what Darren was saying, because Sol was one of my favorite players of all time.
I loved him as a player.
And I was
Just
let
didn't
me
like him
finish.
as a man.
I was probably too young to realize the gravity of the situation of what he did to Spurs. But I loved him as an England player. I admired him, and when he came to us, it was just heaven. So
Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
yes, okay. Now let me wax lyrical about this, and also call Darren a total piece of shit for not realizing
not loving it.
the just what I've been seeing in Mainsley for a really long time is playing out on the pitch. You know, calmness on the ball, athleticism, an eye for a forward pass, ability in tight spaces, an attacking perspective, a physique that enables him to, when he actually bothers running, cover the pitch in an incredibly fast time. Massive shoulders, you know, a physique that can handle the rigors of the Premier League, you know, and being given this opportunity when he was out the door again, he's almost like a cockroach in a nuclear holocaust. He just keeps coming back, you know. So it's for him. I said in our chat group and a while back with the Leeds game how well he played and how good he looked, and his ability to sort of absorb a bit of a press from the other team and move the ball forward instead of just playing the simple ball sideways and backwards. You know, and then lo and behold, Partey goes down again, because that's what Partey does, and he's back in the team. And, you know, he looks good. He looks good. My only criticism of him, and I want to get this out before I forget, is that I feel that he hides on the pitch sometimes. I just wish he'd show for the ball a little bit more.
Look, I've not been Maitland-Niles' biggest fan, not because I don't love every player that plays for Arsenal. I give him everything. I give them everything. I really do. I support them. I'm the one who was cheering at Bowie when he was booed. You know, I am that man. I am an El Neni. I'm an El Neni fan. You know, I give these players who give everything for the club. You know, El Neni's a really good example. He gives everything at the club.
So why do you hate Mainsley? Explain.
I don't hate Mainsley. I just think the biggest issue with him, and if he has got over this, which in his recent performances hopefully he has, he's a bit stupid. He is one of those players that he's playing for 90 minutes a week in a game of football, but he forgets and he can only do 5-10 minutes at a time. And then his mind wanders and suddenly, oh shit, there's a goal. And that was Ainsley Moulton-Oldsmith. He had every component to make a really good footballer, whatever position he played in. He played really well as a wing back. He could play on the left. He could play on the right. But he lost concentration so often. And I don't care what you say. I don't care how good you are. When you play in the back half of the pitch in a defensive or midfield position, if you switch off at the level that the Premier League is now, you get punished. And he forgets things. You can watch him. I watch him. I stared at him sometimes. And he's in the game for 5 minutes. And then suddenly he switches off. His concentration dips, and those little dips are the things that stopped him becoming a top footballer. But he was also very, very young, and now he's had a couple of years to learn, and I'm sure he is learning. I'm sure he's maturing. What is he still? He's only probably 24, 25 years old, if that.
24, yeah.
Yeah, and he's getting better. And you know, that performance he played at the weekend, he stood in for Thomas Partey. And Toby, I don't know if you've been listening to me. I keep saying he's Thomas Partey, all that. I haven't seen him play. You know, he's had half a dozen good games in 25.
I've been saying that too, Darren.
He didn't actually stand in for Thomas Partey positionally. He stood in for Lokonga. Lokonga stood in for Thomas Partey. AMM was actually pulling into the left back position played it actually much more the way that Xhaka would play the role, but with more athleticism.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm saying I'm not critical of Ainsley Maitland-Niles as a player. I think he's got, you know, we look at these players that have come through, Emil Smith-Rowe, Saka, have come up through our ranks, and they're a lot more technically gifted than the players that we used to see coming through the ranks, the Ray Parlers, the things. They weren't technically great players. They had fight and energy, and he had all that. He was just mentally deficient. But as he's got older, his performance at the weekend was complete. You know, suddenly we're looking at a player that we're happy. I always wanted El Neni to stand in when there was because El Neni doesn't make many mistakes. He may be a bit dull. He may not do anything, but he passes the ball. He plays within his. No, but he plays within his comfort zone. He doesn't give the ball away. He links the play. He's a safe option.
I don't think El Neni even plays football.
But Maitland-Niles had something special.
Yeah. I think El Neni has just don't fuck up tattooed on his on his wrist to remind himself.
Can I just say
what's my role here? Don't fuck up.
Can I just say to the two of you, something that maybe you don't get so much from your remote viewing is when you're in a hostile atmosphere at the Emirates, which it's been for years. It's lovely this season, but for years it's been a hostile environment in that. And when you give the ball away and you've got 45, 50,000 really bitter, angry fans groan when you do something wrong.
Clutching their prawn sandwich and their 5-pound bottle of Arsenal water.
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot for a player to do what Smith-Rowe and Saka do. That's why those two are really great for Arsenal, because they've grown up. They're Arsenal men, and they're confident enough to do something. Maitland-Niles, you know, the same. He just switches off. El Neni doesn't like that groan. You know, he will just give it simple because he wants to walk off that pitch after 90 minutes with no mistakes, and that doesn't make a great football team. But he plays safe. Maitland-Niles, if he can take away that 10 minutes a game where he just loses concentration, he could be a really important player for him. And I look at Thomas Partey and think 25 games he's played for us. He's been injured for 6 months. He's had 6 good games. He scores very infrequently. He assists infrequently. He's been a complete disappointment for me, for this superstar that I heard we were going to get. I still have hope that he will turn into that great player, because there are signs this year that he will. But if he doesn't, isn't it good that we've got someone like Ainsley Maitland-Niles who's now looking strong enough to actually come into this team with the confidence to actually do something different? You know,
Can I
he hasn't cost
just
50 million.
jump in? Can I just jump in, Darren? So 2 or 3 or 4 pieces to bite into there. Number one, El Neni's shit. Fuck off. Number two, I think with Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I think there's 2 very natural things that have happened. So him going out on loan last year, I think he might have visibly seen and visibly felt what it actually is like to leave a big club. Now, some people don't get that opportunity because they get sold. And they get sold, and you see these guys who were quite good at youth level and quite promising, and then they fuck off to a mid-table team, and they kind of become nothingness. They kind of become nothingness.
A Tom Cleverley.
Yeah, a Joe Willock this season. You take any top team anywhere, where you get these young kids who come in and they don't quite make the grade. And I think what has happened with Ainsley most likely is he's seen what the other side of football looks like now. He's seen what it is to get signed by a West Brom and to go and be in a fucking losing team surrounded by 6 and 7 out of 10 players. And if you listen to Arteta's interview post-game, Arteta said, absolutely humbo gumbo. Iwobi would be another prime example. A guy who in an Arsenal team looked quite good but could never quite make the grade. But when you listen to Arteta's interview afterwards, he made a big point. They didn't ask him the question. He made a very big point of bringing up Ainsley. And he said his attitude is different. He's asking more questions in training. He's training harder and his body language is much better. So if those things that you're
he's given up the weed to help with his.
Well, he may have.
He's maturing.
People mature at different stages. You look at John Tonkotsu. He's a very, very, very mature 21-year-old. You look at Aaron Ramsdale, and I implore everyone, even if you don't watch golf, go on Tubes.
No, and I never will.
Go on Tubes and Ange's YouTube channel, and they play golf with players. They play golf with Aaron Ramsdale after the Leicester game. Go watch the 25-minute video. You will fall in love with Aaron Ramsdale even more as he goes around the golf course. So mature, so together. Anyway, I'm not finished. Let me keep going. So
okay, 1 point, 2 more to go.
People mature at different. So El Neni's shit. He's seen what fucking not being at Arsenal looks like. Ainsley, the manager is fucking backing him in, right? Which is absolutely huge. And my final point is, I think anyone who looks at Thomas Partey and brings up his goal contribution or brings up his assist contribution and says that he's not good enough for those 2 points clearly didn't fucking understand the type of player that we were buying. I think he's been a lot better than what doubters say that he's been. Yes, I agree he has been injured and he has been injury prone. But as far as athletic profile, as far as putting a man in the middle of the park for us, and also having someone who's an absolute professional for some of those young kids, those younger people around him, the Lokongas to look up to, the AMNs to look up to, our midfield people to look up to, I think he's been really, really important. When you actually look at it, he wasn't overly expensive. His wages aren't through the fucking roof. There's still a couple more years to get out of him. The athletic profile of the Arsenal team with Ainsley Maitland-Niles coming into that team and performing as well. This is what I mean about looking at us on a bell curve and watching us kind of slightly move up the bell curve. And I've always thought that Ainsley would never look good in a team that was struggling, but Ainsley would always look good in a team that was playing well. The big question I have to finish off this podcast we've done now, and we'd like to keep them to an hour. We'll go around the traps. We've spoken a lot about athletic profile. We've spoken a lot about the 2-directionalness of Arsenal now. We've spoken a lot about having comfortable technical midfielders on the ball. We've spoken a lot about having comfortable technical 2-footed central defenders. Granit Xhaka will come back into this team. And the debate rages on Twitter. Darren and I spoke about it last week. We both know what we think about it. Toby, I'm going to leave it with you. 2-part question. Number one, does Granit Xhaka walk straight back into this team when he's fit regardless, because he's been backed by every manager forever? And 2, will Granit Xhaka look better because the back 2 are good, or will the back 2 look worse because you put a less athletic midfielder in front of them?
Jesus Christ. So we were going party. We went back to Mainsley briefly.
Then that was finished. Toby, then that point was finished because everyone had their say. This is how a podcast works, right? When you're hosting, which you've done once and you weren't very good at. But when you're doing it,
I thought it was left field. Fucking Xhaka has to get into every podcast. It's relevant.
Well, considering we're talking about the midfield and considering we're talking about party.
Cut it off. Let me make my response. I'm terribly sorry for.
And I need one more moment.
Your 5-point question. Look, Xhaka is an important part of this team, and he'll come back, and he'll do a job. Now, going slightly back to Partey and where I feel that he's okay but hasn't performed, I think Xhaka has been more important to the team over the last couple of years than Partey has. Partey gives away possession at a higher rate. Partey, he's pressed and broken down in transition. He loses the ball. I'm not saying he's a bad player overall, but he's less complete than what we're thinking. He's certainly a physical presence, but he's consistently not in the team. He's in and out and doesn't ever progress to that form where he is a fulcrum of the midfield. So in answer to your question, when you've got Lokonga, who also has a habit of giving the ball away, absolutely, Xhaka is going to come back into the team. There is no doubt. We have a better left-sided bias from an attacking point of view. He is the only player out of those three players who has an incisive long ball, which gets through, the defensive lines and the structure of the other team. He's positionally aware and he's a leader on the pitch. So all of this fucking Xhaka hate and even bringing it back to Xhaka when he's not even in the team and we're actually on a positive run, I don't even know why we're having the debate. But yes, he'll come back into the team because he is a very important leader within the team and he makes other people positionally more flexible while he maintains his role.
111 of the last 12 without him in the team. Darren.
I need you to just put a comment up for 9:57. Go back to 9:57. Why not? It starts Dazza. Can you see that? Can you see that? I just need to address this point. There's a comment coming from Why Not, who's also still done his Arteta out, Kroenke's out shit. The comment says Dazza. That's me. Being black makes it more difficult to get high-level jobs. Look at Ollie at Manchester United. He's definitely not qualified for any Premier League job. I read that and suddenly I think, do I come across as racist? And possibly I do. I come from from England, from a town that was predominantly white. So there is some institutionalized racism within me. I've traveled all over the world. I've lived in many countries. I consider myself, color doesn't really come into my life. I can honestly say that from somebody who has lived everywhere, and I've visited everywhere. I've spent 40 years traveling around this planet. So color, creed, religion doesn't enter my thought process when I talk about things. Sol Campbell, I wasn't criticizing him for being black. I'm criticizing him because he's not good enough. I know it's difficult to get a job when you're of a different creed, color, but that's not the point I'm making with Sol Campbell. I am talking about the point. If Sol Campbell was white and he had done what he did to Tottenham Hotspur, if he had done what he did and moved from one company to another company and upset so many people with no understanding of the feeling that he left behind, that makes that man the wrong man to follow. That is why he doesn't get a job. Not because he is of black skin, it's because he is fucking useless.
And thanks for clarifying, Darren, but we make a point on ArseBrothers to say whatever the fuck we want, not apologize for it, and be apolitical. So you could have let it go. But I
no. I don't want you to miss the point. I don't want people to miss the point. The point is not
that he's a
'cause
Judas
black.
cunt.
It's because as a man, I would not want to work for that man. I would not want to work for a man who can just walk away from something that everybody loved that man. He could have gone anywhere, and he chose as a person to despise and get despised by thousands of people. He could have gone anywhere, and he chose to do that.
And choose a better club and make us better. So
yeah, I loved him as a player.
He's
Enjoyed his time at Arsenal. Enjoyed him at Arsenal. Fuck me, we were great. Loved him as a player. Hated him as a man.
So how do we finish?
God, can we finish the fucking podcast?
I was going to say, how do we finish on a strong note?
That's what the host would usually do. The host would usually sort of bring it back as the man who's kind of filling the podcast together. So anyway, on those incredible bombshells from Darren, there are some things I'd like to leave you with, listeners. Number 1, Aubameyang's cooked. Number 2, I'd give Lacazette a new contract. Number 3, Darren's a cunt. Number 4, El Neni is shit. Number 5, Ainsley Maitland-Niles will be playing in England's midfield within the next 2 years. Number 6, Darren's a racist. Good night. Oh, I've got to put the fucking music on. I had like the whole thing. I fucked it up again.
Do it again. Nobody's listening.
Wait for it. Fucking.
You're all right.
A lot of.
This is an ArseBrothers production. Follow us on Twitter at the ArseBrothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud at ArseBros. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button.